It's your boy Rere. We back at it with another banger. How every iconic gangster died. I'm telling you, bro. What I always say, you could be the toughest, you could be the strongest, you could be the fucking most angriest motherfucker in the universe. You could still die if you try to be tough. What do you not understand about that? If you try to be tough, niggas are going to be scared. I'd rather be the scary motherfucker than go out like the gangster. Cause scary motherfuckers up that black faucet and will blow you. So I'm always gonna be the scary motherfucker if you ask. But yeah, let's get right to it. Hopefully you boys got that little yeah. And let's get it.
Bonnie and Clyde. On May 23rd, 1934, 23-year-old Bonnie Parker and 25-year-old Clyde Barrow were driving through rural Louisiana in a stolen Ford V8.
Okay.
The couple had spent 2 years robbing banks and stores across the Midwest, becoming America's most wanted criminals during the Great Depression. Law enforcement...
We all know Bonnie and Clyde, but I never knew the story. I never knew this. This is crazy. And I'm legit. I'm like 19, so... Do I expect to know this? Probably so, but no, I don't.
Across 5 states had been hunting them. A posse of 6 lawmen, led by former Texas Ranger Frank Hamer, had tracked the pair to Louisiana. Hamer had spent months studying their patterns.
You should have known, because that gangster shit, all that gangster shit, Louisiana. See, I'm telling you, young boy had that fucking Clyde in him. Clyde, yeah, had that Clyde. Or was that the female? I don't know which one is Clyde. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that man, bro. He was young boy before young boy. I'm telling you, he was stealing shit. Yeah, I'm telling you. That nigga was really doing that shit before everybody else. With his female. That's impressive.
Interviewing their families and mapping their movements, he learned that Bonnie and Clyde regularly visited Clyde's family near Shreveport. On the morning of May 23rd, the officers set up an ambush on Highway 154 near Siled, Louisiana. They positioned themselves behind trees and an abandoned truck along the road. Around 9:15 a.m., Bonnie and Clyde's tan Ford appeared, traveling at high speed. As the car approached, one officer stepped onto the road. Before Clyde could react, all 6 lawmen opened fire simultaneously. They carried Browning automatic rifles, shotguns, and pistols. The sustained gunfire was deafening. The officers didn't shout a warning. They didn't order the couple.
Holy fuck. I thought they died in like a shed and like they froze to death. That's fucking crazy. They caught the motherfuckers in the whip when they were pulling up and just started. That's fucking, what's it called nowadays? Gunfire? They gunfire their ass. Down. Oh my god.
Stop or surrender. They simply opened fire and didn't stop until their magazines were empty. The fusillade lasted approximately 16 seconds. When the shooting finally stopped, the Ford had rolled to a stop. The vehicle had been struck 1,067 times. Bonnie and Clyde had been hit repeatedly. The coroner later counted so many bullet wounds that he couldn't provide an exact number for each body. The coroner noted that the bodies had so many holes that embalming fluid wouldn't stay inside during preparation. Both died instantly in the initial barrage. Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow never had a chance to surrender or draw their weapons. News of their deaths spread quickly. Thousands of people descended on the ambush site and the funeral home where their bodies were displayed. Souvenir hunters tried to cut off locks of Bonnie's hair and pieces of Clyde's clothing. The sensational nature of their death cemented their legend as outlaw folk heroes.
Yeah.
I was looking to get a new truck.
Yeah, you was? Well, not no more, because I'm about to skip your ass. No, I'm joking. Watch the full video if you're a YouTuber. I don't give a fuck. Support your other YouTubers. On God. Alright, you gotta give it a little, man. I ain't gonna lie. I gave it like 10 seconds, and then it told me to skip, and I skipped. But I try to give them the most play as possible, because, you know what I'm saying? That's how they make their money. For real, bro. Like, these people in real life make their money off of us, and you guys support them. You can't be hating. Like, what? I'm not even getting into that shit. I'm gonna get into it later.
Folk heroes. Al Capone. On January 25th, 1947, 48-year-old Al Capone suffered a cardiac arrest at his Palm Island estate in Miami
You know who Al Capone get him gone is? We better find out.
Beach, Florida. Capone, who'd once controlled Chicago's criminal underworld and made millions from bootlegging during Prohibition, had been living in retirement for years. But Capone's death wasn't dramatic. He didn't die in a hail of bullets or in a daring escape. He died in his bed, his mind already gone. By 1947, Capone had been suffering from neurosyphilis for years, a condition caused by untreated syphilis that attacks the brain. Capone had contracted syphilis as a young man, probably in his 20s. He never received proper treatment with antibiotics because penicillin wasn't widely available until after he'd already developed serious complications. The disease progressed slowly over decades, eventually reaching his brain. By the mid-1940s, Capone's mental capacity had deteriorated to approximately that of a 12-year-old child. The man who'd once commanded an empire of speakeasies, breweries, and criminal operations across Chicago spent his final years in confusion. On January 25th,
Don't do my boy Al Capone like that. Don't do him like that. Because you know good and well. Don't do him like that. He a legend. He died out like a legend.
Capone suffered a stroke followed by cardiac arrest. He died at his Florida home, surrounded by family. The syphilis that had destroyed his mind contributed to the heart failure that finally killed him. Bugsy Siegel. On June 20th, 1947, 41-year-old Benjamin Bugsy Siegel was relaxing in the living room of his girlfriend's Beverly Hills mansion. Siegel had spent the previous decade building his criminal empire in California and Nevada, investing heavily in Las Vegas casinos. By 1947, he'd poured millions into the Flamingo Hotel, much of it belonging to East Coast mob investors. The Flamingo had opened months earlier, but was losing money. Siegel's partners suspected he'd been skimming construction funds. They'd grown impatient with his expensive lifestyle and the casino's poor returns. Siegel didn't know that a contract had been approved on his life. Around 10:45 p.m., Siegel sat on a chintz sofa, reading the Los Angeles Times. His associate Alan Smiley sat nearby. Virginia Hill, Siegel's girlfriend, was traveling in Europe. The house was quiet. Outside, a gunman approached the window with an M1 carbine, a military rifle. He positioned himself in the darkness of the garden, aiming through the window at Siegel's profile. The shooter fired 9 shots through the window. Multiple bullets struck Siegel in the head and torso. One shot hit him directly in the bridge of his nose. The force of the bullet was so powerful that it blew Siegel's left eye completely out of its socket. The eyeball was found intact on the floor, approximately 15 feet from where Siegel had been sitting. The gruesome detail was photographed and appeared in newspapers. Bugsy Siegel died instantly on the sofa. Within minutes of the shooting,
and people still try to hold people nowadays. People still try to scam people. People still try to rob people. And that's what happens in them motherfuckers. Look at that. Look what happens. Try to be a snake and not give.
Eyeball was found intact on the floor, approximately 15 feet from where Siegel had been sitting. The gruesome detail was photographed and appeared in newspapers. Bugsy Siegel died instantly on the sofa. Within minutes of the shooting, mobsters back east had already taken.
He shouldn't have died like that, but he got his karma came. His karma came, bro. You gotta realize, bro. Dead ass. Think about this shit. You scamming niggas and doing bad. What's going good out of that situation, bro? Keep adding on bad shit. That shit ain't never gonna get good. You never gonna have good luck. I'm telling you, bro. Real spill. My bad. This blunt really talking to me.
In control of the Flamingo. The hit had been coordinated. As Siegel's body lay in Beverly Hills, new management was walking into his Las Vegas casino. The killer was never officially identified, though investigators believed it was a professional hitman contracted by Siegel's former partners. The eye detail became infamous, and later inspired the death of Mo Green in The Godfather, where a character is shot through the eye in a similar fashion.
You've won 5 parlays in a row, and I was too embarrassed.
I didn't. Did you guys win 5 parlays? I didn't. Shit, maybe you guys did, but I didn't. Let me watch this video, though. Alright, you ready? See that eyeball? That's what I'm finna leave you guys if you try to slime me out.
Dutch Schultz. On October 23rd, 1935, 33-year-old Dutch Schultz was dining at the Palace Chop House in Newark, New Jersey. Schultz, born Arthur Flegenheimer, had built a bootlegging and numbers racket empire that made him one of New York's wealthiest gangsters. He sat in a private back room with 3 associates discussing business. Around 10:15 p.m., 2 hitmen sent by the National Crime Syndicate entered the restaurant. The mob's ruling commission had decided Schultz was too reckless and needed to be eliminated. Schultz had been threatening to kill prosecutor Thomas Dewey, which would have brought devastating law enforcement attention to organized crime. Schultz had stepped away from the table to use the...
So, I think they own man slimed them out as well. So, who would you rather die by? We got like 4 deaths by now. It's like, one is with your female. Get that switchy to your fucking noggin. 1,000 bullets? You and your female taking 1,000 bullets? Alright. Or it's fucking... What was it? Remind me. Because I'm smacked. You gotta remind me of the other one. But then you got your homie fucking sliming you out. Imagine your homie sliming you out. What the fuck? You supposed to be cool with the niggas, but at the same time, you sliming them, so what you expect? You're not giving them the money, so I don't know. Remind me of what the other ones was. I'm smacked.
Restroom. One gunman followed him and shot him in the abdomen and left shoulder at close range. The other gunman opened fire on the 3 associates at the table, killing all of them.
Nah, I'm tripping. Remember, nigga, his head fucked up. He got a peaceful death, though. My boy went out with a peaceful death. That's some gangster shit.
Schultz staggered out of the restroom and collapsed. He was rushed to Newark City Hospital, still alive but critically wounded. Doctors performed emergency surgery, but the internal damage was extensive. For the next 22 hours, Dutch Schultz lingered in the hospital bed with a raging fever that reached 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Police stationed detectives at his bedside with a stenographer, hoping he would name his attack.
Wait, that nigga's hot. That's hot, nigga. It's hot, bro. Like, it's hot. Imagine when you going outside when it's like right now, it's like 86. Right? And that's, you like, damn, I'm here, what? That's hot. That's hot. Bro, 106? How is he even alive? Was he dead? Let's go back.
To use the restroom. One gunman followed him and shot him in the abdomen and left shoulder at close range. The other gunman opened fire on the 3 associates at the table, killing all of them. Schultz staggered out of the restroom and collapsed. He was rushed to Newark City Hospital, still alive but critically wounded. Doctors performed emergency surgery, but the internal damage was extensive. For the next 22 hours, Dutch Schultz lingered in the hospital bed with a raging fever that reached 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Police stationed detectives at his bedside with a stenographer, hoping he would name his attackers before dying. Instead, Schultz drifted in and out of consciousness, speaking in fevered, surreal phrases that the stenographer dutifully recorded. He rambled about his childhood, spoke in apparent code, and uttered bizarre poetry. A boy has never wept, nor dashed 1,000 kim, he muttered. French-Canadian bean soup. I want to pay. Let them leave me alone. The transcript of his final words, spanning pages of disjointed phrases, became famous. Historians and writers studied the stenographer's notes for decades, searching for hidden meanings or clues about Schultz's criminal operations. Dutch Schultz died on October 24th, 1935, without revealing who shot him. His fever dream monologue remains one of the strangest documents in American crime history. Albert Anastasia. On October 25th, 1957, 55-year-old Albert Anastasia entered the Park Sheraton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan for his regular morning routine. Anastasia, known as the Lord High Executioner, had risen to become boss of one of New York's 5 crime families. He'd earned...
Once you have that name, you gotta be a boss. It's not no option. The fuck kind of name is that? That's some goated-ass name.
His nickname from his alleged role in founding Murder Incorporated, the mob's enforcement arm. Anastasia had an appointment at the hotel's barbershop on the ground floor. Around 10:15 a.m., he settled into chair number 4 for a haircut and shave. The barber draped a sheet over him and began applying hot towels to his face. 2 men wearing fedoras and scarves over their faces entered the barbershop. They walked directly to Anastasia's chair and drew pistols. The barber jumped back in terror. The gunman opened fire at close range. Anastasia, blinded by the hot towels covering his face, apparently saw only the reflection of the shooters in the large mirror in front of him. In his panic and confusion, he allegedly lunged at the mirror, attacking the reflections rather than the actual gunman behind him. The shooters fired multiple shots into Anastasia as he grappled with the mirror. He was shot repeatedly in the back and head. Albert Anastasia collapsed on the barbershop floor. He died within moments. The gunman calmly walked out of the barbershop, through the hotel lobby, and disappeared into the Manhattan streets. The barbershop had been full of witnesses, but no one could provide useful descriptions. The shooters were never identified or arrested. The image of a mob boss dying while fighting his own reflection became one of organized crime's most surreal moments. Anastasia's death marked the end of an era of overtly violent gangster leadership.
Okay, don't do it like that. And I'm happy that. Cause don't do him like that. I'm finna tell you the meaning after this when we get back from this commercial. Yeah, bro. His ass was just looking in the mirror, and that nigga just thought they was in his face with guns, so he thought he was going. That was a 50-50 chance, and I don't blame him. At least he died like that, thinking he was going to die. I mean, I don't know. I'd rather die like that.
Leadership.
At least I knew
Pablo Escobar.
Shit.
On December 2nd, 1993, 44-year-old Pablo Escobar was hiding in a middle-class neighborhood in Medellin, Colombia. Escobar had spent the previous year and a half evading Colombian authorities and American DEA agents after escaping from his luxurious private prison. The Medellin cartel boss, once worth billions from cocaine trafficking, was now cornered. Colombian police had been tracking Escobar through radio surveillance. He'd been making regular phone calls to his family, and authorities triangulated his location each time he used the phone. On the afternoon of December 2nd, police surrounded the building where he was hiding. Around 3 p.m., a team of Colombian National Police search block officers raided the house. Escobar and his bodyguard attempted to escape across the terracotta rooftops of the adjoining buildings. Both men were barefoot. A gunfight erupted as Escobar ran across the roofs. Officers fired from multiple positions. Within moments, both Escobar and his bodyguard were hit. They fell on the roof. Pablo Escobar died on that rooftop from gunshot wounds. The official report stated he'd been shot in the back and head during the firefight. However, Escobar's family has always maintained he committed suicide with a pistol shot behind his ear, fulfilling his promise that he would never be taken alive. Colombian police officers climbed onto the roof and photographed Escobar's body. The resulting image showed smiling officers posing with Escobar's corpse, treating it like a hunting trophy. The photograph was distributed worldwide within hours. The Colombian government celebrated the end of Escobar's reign. His death marked the effective end of the Medellin cartel's power. Though violence in Colombia's drug trade continued for years, Angelo Bruno. On March 21st, 1980, 69
niggas going so bad. That's a lion. Like, that's not even, like, that's a deer. Like, what? You niggas are weird. That's a human being, bro. At the end of the day, you niggas are monsters. I mean, if God can accept you guys like him, that's crazy, bro.
Year-old Angelo Bruno returned to his South Philadelphia home after dinner with his driver. Bruno, known as the Gentle Don for his preference for negotiation over violence, had led Philadelphia's crime family for over 2 decades. His diplomatic approach had made him wealthy and kept Philadelphia relatively peaceful. Bruno's car pulled up in front of his modest brick row house on Snyder Avenue around 10 p.m. He'd just finished a meal of gnocchi at a favorite restaurant. Bruno sat in the passenger seat of his dark blue Chevrolet. His driver, John Stanfa, sat behind the wheel. A man named Antonio Caponegro had orchestrated a contract on Bruno's life, having received approval from New York families who were dissatisfied with Bruno's leadership. As Bruno sat in the car in front of his home, a shotgun suddenly appeared at the window directly behind his right ear. The gunman, who'd been hiding in the darkness, placed the barrel close to Bruno's head and fired. The blast killed Bruno instantly. The shot was so contained but powerful that it didn't shatter the car's windows. However, the damage to Bruno's head was catastrophic. Contemporary accounts describe the wound as having blown his head clean off, though photographs show the body slumped in the seat. The killing sparked a brutal mob war in Philadelphia that lasted years. Bruno's death removed the stabilizing force that had kept peace. Multiple murders followed as factions fought for control. The photograph of Angelo Bruno's body slumped in the car, mouth open, became one of organized crime's most iconic images. His murder demonstrated that even peaceful mob leadership couldn't guarantee safety. Sam Giancana. On June 19, 1975, 67-year-old Sam Giancana was at his Oak Park, Illinois home alone. Giancana had been Chicago's mob boss for over a decade before being forced into exile in Mexico. He'd returned to the United States the previous year and was living under police surveillance due to investigations into his alleged CIA connections. That evening, Giancana's police protection had left early. He was in his basement kitchen around 10 p.m., frying sausages and peppers on the stove. Someone entered the house. Someone Giancana clearly knew well enough to allow inside. As Giancana stood at the stove cooking, the visitor slipped into exile in Mexico. He'd returned to the United States the previous year and was living under police surveillance due to investigations into his alleged CIA connections. That evening, Giancana's police protection had left early. He was in his basement kitchen around 10 p.m., frying sausages and peppers on the stove. Someone entered the house. Someone Giancana clearly knew well enough to allow inside. As Giancana stood at the stove cooking, the visitor shot him in the back of the head with a .22 caliber pistol. He fell immediately. The shooter then stood over Giancana's body and fired 6 more shots into his head and neck, forming a pattern around his mouth and chin. When police arrived, they found Giancana dead on the kitchen floor. The sausages were still on the stove, not burned, suggesting the attack happened quickly after they'd been put on to cook. The detail about the unburned sausages became significant to investigators. It indicated that Giancana had been comfortable enough with his killer to turn his back while cooking. He trusted this person enough to let them into his home and stand behind him in the kitchen. Sam Giancana's murder was never solved. The fact that he'd been preparing to testify before a Senate committee investigating CIA mob connections fueled decades of conspiracy theories about who ordered the hit. Carmine Galante. On July 12, 1979, 69-year-old Carmine Galante was having lunch at Joe and Mary's Italian-American restaurant in Brooklyn. Galante, acting boss of the Bonanno crime family, had been attempting to consolidate power in New York's drug trade. His aggressive tactics had made enemies among the other families. Around 2:45 p.m., Galante sat on the restaurant's back patio with his bodyguards and several associates. He was eating lunch and smoking one of his trademark cigars. The patio was enclosed and relatively private. 3 men wearing ski masks suddenly burst onto the patio, carrying shotguns and handguns. They opened fire immediately. Galante and his bodyguards were shot multiple times at close range. Carmine Galante died instantly, shot through the chest and head. When police arrived at the scene, they found Galante lying on his back near the table. Despite the violent death, his trademark cigar remained clenched tightly between his teeth. The photograph of the dead mob boss with the cigar still in his mouth became the front page of the New York Daily News. The image became one of the most famous mob hit photographs, capturing the violent end of a gangster who'd refused to compromise. Galante's murder had been sanctioned by the mob's ruling commission, which had grown tired of his ambitions. His death allowed for a reorganization of New York's crime families. Joe Gallo.
Hey, check this out. I just got this in. You didn't...
Why you do that to me, Joe Gallo? I'm gonna catch you boys after this ad. We're back.
By the mob's ruling commission, which had grown tired of his ambitions. His death allowed for a reorganization of New York's crime families. Joe Gallo. On April 7th, 1972, 43-year-old Joe Gallo was celebrating his birthday at Umberto's Clam House in Manhattan's Little Italy. Gallo, known as Crazy Joe, had recently been released from prison and was attempting to rebuild his criminal operations. He was at the restaurant at 4:30 a.m. with his new wife, sister, and bodyguard. The group was enjoying a late-night birthday celebration when several men entered the restaurant. Witnesses reported seeing men draw guns and open fire on Gallo's table. Gallo was hit multiple times. Despite his wounds, Joe Gallo managed to stand and stumble toward the front door of the restaurant. He made it out onto the sidewalk before collapsing. Some accounts suggest he was trying to draw fire away from his family members still inside. Others suggest he was simply trying to escape or get help. Joe Gallo died on the sidewalk outside Umberto's Clam House. His decision to leave the restaurant in his final moments created lasting speculation about his motivation. His death occurred in front of his family during what should have been a celebration. The killing marked another chapter in the ongoing Colombo crime family war. Gallo's murder was never officially solved, though investigators believed it was ordered by rival mobsters. Whitey Bulger. On October 30th, 2018, 89-year-old James Whitey Bulger arrived at United States Penitentiary Hazleton in West Virginia. Bulger, the former Boston crime boss who'd spent 16 years as a fugitive on the FBI's most wanted list, was being transferred between federal prisons. He arrived in a wheelchair, elderly, and frail. Bulger had been convicted of 11 murders and sentenced to life in prison. However, his most hated attribute among inmates wasn't his crimes, it was his decades of work as an FBI informant. He'd betrayed numerous criminals while running his own operations, protected by corrupt FBI agents. Less than 12 hours after arriving at Hazleton, Bulger was dead. On the morning of October 30th, prison officials found him unresponsive in his cell. He'd been beaten to death. Investigations revealed that 3 inmates had attacked the elderly Bulger. They'd used a padlock stuffed inside a sock as a weapon, beating him severely. The attackers had attempted to
This is fucking true. You think I'm lying. Think I'm capping. Motherfuckers be doing this in juvie too. Promise you. Let me know if you want to hear that story time that somebody told me that I could tell you, because I don't give a fuck. I'm Brody.
Gouge out his eyes and cut out his tongue. Traditional mob punishments for informants. Despite being 89 years old and confined to a wheelchair, Bulger was targeted because of his reputation as an informant. His killers were later identified and charged with his murder. All 3 were already serving life sentences. Bulger's death brought a violent end to one of America's most notorious gangsters. His decades of manipulation, murder, and betrayal finally caught up with him in a West Virginia prison cell. Paul Castellano. On December 16th, 1985, 70-year-old Paul Castellano was being driven to Sparks Steakhouse in Midtown Manhattan. Castellano, boss of the Gambino crime family and one of New York's most powerful mob leaders, was meeting associates for dinner. It was 5 p.m. on a Monday evening, and Manhattan was packed with Christmas shoppers. Castellano's driver pulled up in front of Sparks Steakhouse on East 46th Street. Castellano and his driver stepped out of the car onto the sidewalk. It was the middle of rush hour in one of Manhattan's busiest neighborhoods. Several men wearing trench coats and fur hats approached from different directions. They drew handguns and opened fire on Castellano and his driver. Both men were shot multiple times on the busy Manhattan sidewalk. Paul Castellano died on the pavement outside Sparks Steakhouse. His driver also died beside him. Pedestrians and holiday shoppers scattered in panic as gunshots echoed through the street. Across the street, John Gotti sat in a car, watching the assassination unfold. Gotti had orchestrated the hit to take over the Gambino family. He'd deliberately chosen a public location and busy time to demonstrate his boldness. The spectacular nature of Castellano's death, shot in broad daylight in Manhattan's Christmas shopping district, shocked New York. The brazen execution demonstrated a new era of mob violence that showed no concern for public exposure. Gotti's gambit worked and he took control of the Gambino family. Tony Spilotro. On June 14, 1986, 48-year-old Tony Spilotro was told he was being promoted within the Chicago outfit. Spilotro had spent years running Las Vegas operations for the mob, enforcing collections from casinos and eliminating problems. His violent tactics had made him infamous and inspired Joe Pesci's character in the movie Casino. However, Spilotro's behavior had become a liability. His relationship with the wife of a casino executive and his increasing violence had drawn unwanted attention from law enforcement. The mob's bosses decided he needed to be eliminated. Tony and his brother Michael were told to attend a meeting in Indiana where Tony would receive a promotion. Both brothers drove to a house, expecting good news. Instead, they were ambushed. In the basement of the Indiana house, multiple mobsters attacked both brothers. Tony and Michael Spilotro were beaten severely with fists and feet. There were no baseball bats. Contrary to the dramatized version in Casino, the beating was brutal and sustained. Both brothers died from the assault. Their bodies were then driven to a cornfield in Indiana and buried. The mob believed the bodies would never be found.
Dude, what? Them niggas caught him. No, we don't fuck with you enough to kill you fast, so. And we're not gonna, make this a mid-death, so we're not gonna stab you, even in our heart, too. We're going to beat you to death, make you feel every single thing. Beat with your hands. Oh my god, bro. You realize, bro, that's a brutal death. That's on some Mortal Kombat shit, bro. I ain't no joke.
However, a farmer discovered the shallow graves 5 days later. The autopsy on Tony Spilotro revealed something horrifying. Sand was found in his lungs, indicating he'd still been breathing when buried. Tony Spilotro had been beaten unconscious, driven to a cornfield, and buried alive. He suffocated underground. The reality of Spilotro's death was actually worse than the movie version. His murder marked the end of an era in Las Vegas, organized crime. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for
my boy.
Similar one.
Yeah. Thank you, my boy, for the video. For the iconic gangster death. I'm gonna fuck with you with another video. But let's buy this bitch back up. What did this shit teach you guys? Because I know this shit taught me. Nobody's gangster. What I was telling you boys, nobody is gangster, bro. The scariest niggas, or the niggas I can respect, doesn't matter. Everybody dies. At the end of the day, everybody dies. It's just a fact. You want to be a painful death, or you want to die like my boy in his sleep? Or you want to get beaten, or you want to get shot, or you want to get backstabbed? So much ways to die. You want to not only get with drowning and everything, natural causes. Like, it's just so much ways to die. Shit. You boys be smart out here. Rere's back. I got like 2-3 more videos. You know, it's like 2 in the morning. We grinding. Grind don't stop. Officially back, baby.